All right, so today we're going to take a look at the first couple of sections in Module 2, and we're going to deal with percents and sales tax and commissions. Now, as far as percents are concerned, just a couple of things kind of going back, because we're gonna see this today, so just to make sure we're all on the same page. And the first thing we're going to take a look at is how to convert a decimal to a percent. Okay, and then we're going to take a look at that vice versa. So if you have a decimal, remember that a decimal can be converted to a percent. So in order to convert a decimal to a percent, you will move the decimal 2 places left and add a percent symbol. Right, so here's some examples. If you were asked to convert to a percent, okay, let's say 0.7, right? If you want to convert 0.7 to a percent, you would simply, I'm just going to write 0.7. You'll move the decimal once, twice to the right. So let me just make sure I change that. So I'm sorry, to change a decimal to a percent, you move the decimal 2 places to the right, and you would add your percent symbol. So 0.7 as a decimal would be 70%, right? Another example, and I have no idea what is going on with my pen. .04. If you were to write that out as a percent, you would move that decimal 2 places to the left, so that would be 4%. And then one last example. Let's say you had 1.04, and in order to write 1.04 as a percent, we're going to use that same procedure. We're going to move the decimal 2 places to the right, and we're going to drop the percent symbol. So 1.04 is 104%. And then vice versa. To convert a percent to a decimal, we're going to reverse the process. All right, so to convert a percent to a decimal, we drop the percent sign and move the decimal 2 places left. All right, so just a quick example. Let's say if we have 25%, if you're asked to convert that to a decimal, I'm going to drop the percent symbol. And in the number 25, the decimal is behind the 5, and we move that decimal 2 places to the left. So 25% is 0.25 as a decimal. So just going through that. So whenever you see a decimal, you can treat that as a percent. There is something called the percent equation. And we use this percent equation to find parts, to find wholes, and also to find the percent itself. So here's that percent equation. It's written out as is over of is equal to the percent symbol divided by 100. All right, so this is the percent equation. And we use this percent equation. We can use it to find any one of these unknowns. We can use it to find the is, which is the part. We can use it to find the of, which is the whole. We can also use it to find the percent. So when you're using this percent equation, if you're given an is, you would simply put that in the numerator. If you're given an of, you will put that in the denominator. You're going to take whatever your percent is, and you're simply going to drop the percent symbol and place the number in this numerator. So you're not going to move the decimal to the left or to the right or anything like that. You're simply going to drop the percent symbol, and you're going to stick your number here. In order to solve a percent equation, and this is going back to algebra a little bit, we use something called the cross product property. And here's a cross product property. It says that if you have a proportion, so if A over B is equal to C over D, so a proportion is just two fractions set equal to each other. So our percent equation is just that it's two fractions set equal to each other. But the cross product property says if two fractions are set equal to each other, then you can actually cross multiply. I can cross multiply A times D, and I can set that equal to B times C. All right, so we're going to set up our proportion, and we're going to use this cross product property to solve. All right, so let's take a look at an example. All right, so this is going to be similar to your problem number 1 in section 2.2. So when you see these digits that I have, 2.1.1, the first couple of digits is the section, so 2.1, and then that last number would actually be the homework problem. So your homework problem is going to be similar, not exactly the same, but similar. All right, so we're asked to find what number is, so let me just write that out again. Is over of is equal to percent over 100. So it says what number is. So we're trying to find the is part of our percent equation. So I'm just going to let that represent my unknown variable n. Okay, so you can use anything. You can use an x, a, b, or c. But normally in these percent equations, you're going to use the variable n for any unknowns. What number is 90%? So since my 90 is a percentage, I'm going to stick that into my percent, that numerator, and I'm simply going to drop the percent symbol, and I'm going to write in 90. So I'm not changing that to a decimal or anything. I'm simply dropping the percent symbol, and I'm attaching 90. That percent is always over 100 because percent means per 100. So the denominator for any percent is always 100. And it says 90% of 30, so I'm going to stick 30 into the of part of this equation. Right? And we have our proportion. N divided by 30 is equal to 9 divided by 100. So now I'm going to use that cross product property. I'm going to cross multiply So I can multiply n times 100. That gives me 100n. I can set that equal to 90 times 30. Well, 9 times 3 is 27. And I'm going to attach those two zeros. And now in order to solve, so this goes back to algebra a little bit. So I have 100 times n is equal to 2,700. The opposite of multiplying 100 by n is to divide by 100. So whatever I do to one side, I have to do the same thing to the other. So on the left-hand side, the hundreds are canceled, and I'm left with n. And then 2,700 divided by 100 is 27. So 27 over 30, right? If I had to write that out, 27 over 30, that should equal to 90%. Are any questions about the first one? Now we're going to see this percent equation. It's going to keep the same form, but it's going to change. So we're going to use the same, well, a version of the same formula for commissions. We can also use it for sales tax. All right, so let's take a look at another example. So, hey, this is similar to your number 2. And it says what percent, so we're trying to find the percent in this particular equation, of 95 is 57. So I'm just going to map out my proportion. I'm trying to find the percent. So I'm going to let that represent my variable n. So it says what percent of 95. So 95 goes in my denominator is 57. So 57 goes in the numerator. So I have that as 57 divided by 95 is equal to n over 100. I'm going to cross multiply. So 57 times 100 is 5,700. 95 times n is 95n. The opposite of multiplying 95 by n is to divide by 95. So I'm going to divide both sides by 95. Right, so those properties of equality tell us whatever we do to one side, we must do the exact same thing to the other side. So in this case, we're dividing both sides by 95. On the right-hand side, 5,700 divided by 95 should be 60. On the right-hand side, the 95s cancel. So we have 60 is equal to n. All right. Okay, let's look at a last problem that deals with this percent equation. All right, so this is one similar to number 3. It says what percent of 16 is 15? Right. So I'm trying to find my percent once again of 16. So 16 is the denominator, 15 is the numerator. And that n should be always over 100. Now I'm just going to cross multiply. So 1500 is equal to 16N. And I believe once we divide both sides by 16, $1,500 divided by 16 is 93.75. Right. So 93.75% is equal to E. All right, any questions about the percent equation? Okay, now in going further down in the homework, there's some problems that they actually give you an equation, and you have to write that equation out in words. And we're going to base this on that same percent equation. Is over of is equal to percent over 100. So this is problem, or similar to your problem number 11. And it says write a basic percent problem. The solution can be found by solving the equation. N is equal to 0.45 times 950. So we're going to have to write that out in words. So in order to write that out in words, I'm going to take my equation. I'm going to stick my items into this percent equation, and then we're going to write it out in words. Now, one thing about these particular problems, I believe it's 11 through 15. There's like 3 or 4 problems. Anytime you're given a decimal, you can write that as a percent. So as I look at this, N is equal to 0.45 times 950. 0.45 that's going to be my percent. So now if you notice what I'm doing, 0.45 over 100, that gives me my 45%. So instead of writing out 0.45 as a decimal and putting that over 100, I'm just rewriting that right-hand side as 45%. So now where do I situate this 950? Well, if you'll notice from this cross product property, the only thing I can multiply my percent by is this denominator of. So if I go back to my previous problem, just notice that for this problem, we cross multiplied the percent times 16, right? Because that's the only way to solve this proportion is to cross multiply. So with that being said, since this 0.45 is being multiplied by 950, 950 is actually the of part. Because let's just say if I write 0.45 here, right? When I cross multiply, I can only multiply 0.45 times 950. So I'm trying to figure out what the is part of this equation is. So now I have enough information to write all of this out. So I'm going to write this out as what number is 45% of 950. So that should be the problem written out in words. Right? So I believe that's going to be, in my case, it's going to be C. What number is, because notice in our percent equation, we're missing the is. We're given a 0.45, which is 45% as a decimal. I put 950 in the denominator because when we cross multiply, that's going to allow us to multiply 0.45 and 950, right? So 950 has to be that first denominator, and then I just wrote that out in words. So it's what number is 45% of 950. All right, let's take a look at another example. And I believe it's similar to problem number 12. All right, so it says write a basic percent problem. It says the solution can be found by solving the equation n times 26 equal to 36. So I'm going to write out that percent equation. Is over of is equal to percent over 100. So the first thing I generally like to do is write out this right-hand side that deals with any percents or decimals. And if you'll notice, in my particular example, I don't have any decimals or percentages, right? So I'm actually trying to find my percent. So I'm going to start this out as what percent. If I look back at my equation, it says n times 26 is equal to 36. Right? So I'm trying to find my percent, which in this case is n. I can only multiply my percent by this first denominator. So the of part of this percent equation should be 26. Right. It's going to be 26 because if I look back at my equation, I have n times 26. I can only multiply my percentage by that previous denominator. So that makes this denominator 26. The only thing that's unknown is going to be the is part. So the is part becomes 36. So I'm going to write this out as what percent of 26 is 36. So when you're writing out these equations as word problems or application problems, I would write out the percent equation, the is over of is equal to percentage over 100. And I would situate what I'm given into that percent equation and then translate the word problem part from the percent equation. All right, so any questions about 2.1? It deals with this percent equation. All right, now in the second part, 2.2, it deals with sales tax and commissions. And I'm just going to write down some formulas for sales tax and then some formulas for commissions, and then we'll go through some examples. The sales tax amount That's going to equal to the purchase price times the sales tax. The total price that's going to equal to the sales tax amount plus the purchase price. Okay. Or the total price is equal to the purchase price times 1 plus the sales tax amount. So we'll talk about sales tax, and then I'll write out the formulas for commission, and we'll talk about the commission. Now, as far as the sales tax amount is concerned, and then here's an example. Okay, I'm making this up. So I'll say a car. A car is purchased in South Carolina for, let's say, $8,000. What is the total price at a sales tax rate of 8%? All right, so it says a car is purchased in South Carolina for $8,000. The total price, what is the total price at a sales tax rate of 8%? So now in some of these problems, they want you to find the sales tax amount, and then they want you to find the total price. So first we're going to find the sales tax amount. Find the sales tax amount. So from our formulas, it says that the sales tax amount is just the purchase price times the sales tax. All right, so I'm going to take the purchase price, which is $8,000. And I don't know why this keeps popping up. Sales tax amount. That's equal to $8,000 times 8%. Whenever you work with your percentages mathematically, you have to convert them to a decimal. So 8% is 0.08 as a decimal, right? We dropped the percent symbol and moved that decimal 2 places to the left. So if we multiply 8,000 times 0.08, we get $640. Okay, so that's the sales tax we have to pay. Now if we find the total price, I have to take the sales tax amount plus the sale plus the purchase price. So the total price is going to equal to the sales tax amount, which was $640, plus the $8,000. So we got $8,640, which is the total price. So putting this all on the screen together. So in order to find the total price using this formula, we had to find the sales tax amount, and then from the sales tax amount, we had to do another calculation to find the total price. There is an alternative formula to strictly find the total price in one step versus the two steps. So let me just show you how this works. So this is with the same problem. Find the total price. And this is going to be method 2. So notice what the second formula says. All right, so this would be method 1, right? Finding the total price in 2 steps. This is going to be method 2, which is to find the total price in 1 step. So this formula says to find a total price all in 1 step, we simply take the purchase price and we multiply by 1 plus the sales tax amount. So this is how that works. So let me just write out the formula. The total price, that's equal to the purchase price times 1 plus the sales tax amount. So the purchase price is going to be $8,000. And then the second part of this says it's 1 plus the sales tax amount. So now this is where that 1 comes in. The number 1 as a percentage is 100%. So 100% represents the total. To that 100%, I'm going to add the sales tax, which is 8%. So if I add 1 plus 0.08, I get 1.08. So now if I multiply 8,000 times 1.08, I'm going to get, excuse me, that's 8,000 times 1.08. I'm going to get $8,640. And I get that in 1 step versus 2 steps. Right? So you may see me do this from time to time. For a percent increase, you can just add the sales tax to 100%. When we talk about a decrease, we can subtract from 100%. So we'll talk about that subtraction a little bit later. All right. So taking a look at some problems in 2.2, this is similar to number 3. And here it asks for the sales tax and the purchase price. Some problems only want the purchase price. Some problems only want the sales tax. This problem wants both. So it says sales tax and purchase price. Suppose the sales rate in a certain state is 4%. How much sales tax is charged on a new car if the purchase price is $17,900? So we're going to find the sales tax. So there was a formula to find a sales tax amount. That was equal to the purchase price times the sales tax rate. So the purchase price is $17,900 times the sales tax, which is 4%. So we must change that 4% to a decimal. So I'm going to drop the percent symbol, move that decimal 2 places to the left. So 4% is 0.04. And if we multiply the two, we get $716 for the sales tax. To find the total price, we're going to add the purchase price plus the sales tax. So the purchase price, that equals to the sales tax amount plus the that's the total amount. That's equal to the sales tax rate plus the purchase price. So if I jot all this stuff in, the sales tax is $716 plus the purchase price, which is $17,900. So we get $18,616. And that's doing it in one step, or I could use that alternative formula. I'll just write it here. That's equal to the purchase price times 1 plus the sales tax rate. So that's equal to $17,900 times 1.04. And if I multiply those two together, I get the $18,616. So that is the sales tax amount and the purchase price. Okay, I'm going to write out another formula. I don't think I wrote this out in the beginning. Just make sure. There's also something called the sales tax rate. All right. So the first formula was to find the sales tax amount, where you just multiply the purchase price times the sales tax. But in some of the problems, they don't give you the sales tax rate. You have to find it. So in order to find that sales tax rate, we're going to take the sales tax amount and we're going to divide that by the purchase price. So we got to be careful on what they're asking us to find. So I think that's a total of 4 formulas for sales tax. So this is similar to number 5 out of section 2.2. It says if the purchase price of a bottle of California wine is $24, so that's the purchase price. The sales tax amount is $150. What is the sales tax rate? So the sales tax rate, remember that's a percentage, that's going to equal to the sales tax amount which they give us as $1.50 divided by the purchase price, which is $24. So if we divide 1.5 divided by 24, we get 0.0625. But we must change this decimal to a percent. So if we move that decimal 2 places to the right, we get 6.25%. All right, and that is the sales tax rate. All right, any questions about the sales tax? All right, now we're going to talk about commission rates and purchase price. So there's some formulas for this as well. So the first one is the commission rate. And the commission rate is equal to the amount of the purchase that's the commission amount divided by the purchase price. And that'll give me the commission rate. This next formula is for commission amount or purchase price. So that's equal to the commission and this is the purchase price what is wrong with my pen? Okay, so that's the commission over the purchase price. All right, so let's see how this works. All right, so this is similar to number 7, and this is to find the commission. Okay, the last one. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at, this is number 7, and one similar to number 7. And it's to find the commission. And it says a tire salesperson has a 13% commission rate. If he sells a set of radial tires for $300, what is his commission? So I'm going to use that commission rate formula, which is the amount of sale times the commission rate. So a commission, just so that we're all clear, some people get paid on a salary where we take a car salesman. Let's say a car salesman makes $20 an hour, no matter how many cars they sell, right? So they work on wages. A person that works on commission, they only make money based on the amount that they sell. So like some jobs, like a car salesman, they go by commission. If you're not really selling anything, you're not really making any money, so there's really no reason for them to keep you around type deal. Whereas with hourly wages, you get paid a certain rate no matter what you sell or what you do. All right, so here we're trying to find the commission amount, not rate, but amount. So I'm going to take the amount of the sale, which was $300. We're going to multiply that by the commission rate, which is 13%, but we must change a 13% to a decimal. So that's 0.13. And if we multiply the two together, we should get 300 times 0.13. You should get $39. So off of the $300 worth of tires he sold, his commission amount was $39. All right, so it's the amount of the sale times your commission rate. Number 8 is set up a little bit different. This is to find the commission and the purchase price. All right, so that goes to this second formula that we were looking at, the commission amount or the purchase price. So it says that the commission and purchase price example, suppose a salesperson gets a commission rate of 12%. So automatically that 12%, it goes on the right-hand side of that commission equation, just like in the percent equation. The percent is always on the right-hand side. 12% of the lawnmower she sells. If the commission on one of the lawnmowers is $48, what is the purchase price of the lawnmower? So it tells us that the commission is $48 and we want to know the purchase price. So if I look back at my formula, I'm going to put the commission, which is $48 on top. We're trying to find the purchase price, so that's going to be our unknown N. So this is 48 divided by N. So now I'm going to use a cross product property and solve it. So I'm going to cross multiply 48 and 100. That gives us 4,800. I'm going to cross multiply N times 12. So that's going to give us 12N. And when we divide both sides by 12, we should get 400. So the commission he received was, or she received was $400. So that's based on a variation of that percent equation, where I'm just going to add to this. So this is the commission rate, and this side is the commission amount, just to be clear on that. All right, and then lastly, there is problem number 15. And there's generally some questions about 15. One, because there is no viewing example, and then two is because it deals with luxury taxes, and luxury taxes aren't something that like an everyday person like myself deals with. But this is the question. In 1990, Congress passed a law which took effect on January the 1st, 1991, requiring an additional tax of 10% on the portion of the purchase of certain luxury items. For expensive cars, it was paid on the part of the purchase price that exceeds $30,000. For example, if you purchase a Jaguar XJS for $53,000, you would pay a luxury tax of 10% on $23,000 because the purchase of $53,000 is $23,000 above the $30,000. So how that works is if you buy a car over $30,000, and in this case the Jaguar was $53,000, you must pay 10% on anything over the $30,000. So this is how the luxury tax part works. So for the luxury tax, that's 10% over $30,000. So we have to take the $53,000, which was the purchase price of the Jaguar, minus $30,000, and we get $23,000. That means we have to pay 10% on the $23,000. So when we calculate the luxury tax, we have to take the amount over $30,000, which was $23,000, and we have to multiply that by 10%, which is 0.1 as a decimal. So once we multiply 23,000 times 0.01, excuse me, by 0.1, we get 2,000 $5,300. So now that's only the luxury tax amount. We still have to pay for the car along with its sales tax. All right, so now it asks for, that was just the luxury tax. So we take anything over $30,000, multiply that by 10%, and that's the luxury tax amount we have to pay. We're also asked to find the sales tax. So now if I read a little bit further, it says if you purchase the Jaguar for $53,000 in California where the sales tax is 6%, how much would you pay in luxury tax, and then how much would you pay in sales tax? So for sales tax, we're going to use the formula from the beginning to find the sales tax amount. We're simply going to take the purchase price times the sales tax rate. So the purchase price was $53,000, and then the sales tax rate was 6%, which is 0.06. So if we multiply those two together, we're going to get 53,000 times 0.06. We get $3,180. So now, even though this question doesn't ask for this, in order to find the purchase price for that vehicle, you would have to take $53,000. You have to add to that the sales tax of $3,180. And then you would have to add the luxury tax of $2,300, which would bring the price of that car to $58,480. Now, it doesn't ask you for the total purchase price. It just simply asks you for the sales tax amount and the luxury tax. So luxury tax is not a thing that you see very often. All right, so any questions about commissions and sales tax?